Good evening, and on behalf of the March for Life Education and Defense Fund, I'd like to welcome you to our trip planning webinar. We have a fun and very informative 45 minutes ahead, and this webinar is for everyone out there. It's for those of you who've been to the March for Life 20 times or maybe even 42 times, and for those of you who've never been to the March before. This is for people who are planning trips for 500 young people, or maybe those of you who can't even come but want to participate remotely. It's for everyone. And so we're excited to have you. We've got lots of information, and one of the most important things I want to begin our time with you tonight is just to share with you our theme for this coming year. If you've been following us on social media over the last week, you know that we've announced our theme, and it is the phrase, "Every life is a gift." Our founder, Nellie Gray, was very fond of saying, "No exceptions, no compromise." And this is a different way of saying that too. Every life is a gift. Our emphasis in particular this year will be on little ones who've received a poor prenatal disability diagnosis, and that's because they're very disproportionately impacted with abortion. As many as 9 out of 10 little babies that are diagnosed with Down syndrome in the womb aren't ever brought to term by their mom and dad. And so we're hoping that this year's March is a time to educate people about that and to do something about that atrocity. Every abortion is one too many, we know that, but for those populations that are disproportionately affected, we want to do our part at the March for Life to help. And so our theme is Every Life is a Gift. We also have for you a very exciting new tool, and you can download it as we speak right now. It's the March for Life Trip Planner. You can get it very simply by going to our website, marchforlife.org. We have also put together an incredible lineup of speakers tonight. You're going to hear all sorts of different aspects from different leaders in the pro-life movement, and I'm very excited to introduce you to them. But before I do that, we want to start with a polling question. We want to know how many of you are going to the March for Life for the first time this year versus how many of you have been before. And so the way we're going to find this out is we need you to text us, and here's the number I want you to text. It's 99000. And then the phrase that everyone's going to put in is all one word, First March, FIRSTMARCH. And then you'll get the polling questions back. And at the end of the webinar, we're going to let you know how many of you are first-timers versus how many of you have been to the March for Life many times. Now, you're also welcome to email us with questions throughout the webinar. And you can email us by emailing info, at marchforlife.org. You can also tweet us on Twitter by using the hashtag March for Life, and you spell out FOR, so March for Life. So you can communicate with us in any of those means, and we have some t-shirts to give away to people who are in communication with us tonight throughout the webinar. We're very excited to have you, and now for our speakers. Like I said, quite a lineup. We have Jill Stanek, we've got Kristen Hawkins, we have Krista Lopacola with the Archdiocese of Washington, and appropriately we have a few students, Sean McGuire from Liberty School of Law and Noreen Fisher from Notre Dame. And last, but definitely not least, we have one of my favorite members of Congress, Congressman Dan Lipinski, who represents the 3rd District of Illinois. Congressman Lipinski is an ardent pro-lifer, and we just want to thank him for being so courageous in what is sometimes a hostile environment, fighting for our issues. So we're going to open with him now, and he's going to be focusing on the importance of coming to the march and why you need to visit your congressman when you're here in Washington for the march. So without further ado, Congressman Lipinski.
Thanks, Jeannie. Hopefully everyone can see me here, because I can't see myself on here.
We can see you.
Good, good, good. I want to welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out to our chat tonight. And I have to especially give a shout out to Notre Dame, since I taught at Notre Dame. I taught government there. And I'm here to tell you why it's important for you to come out to Washington for the march. Now, first of all, I've had the great honor of being able to speak for the last few years at the rally. And it's important that we show strength at the rally, out on the streets of Washington, and also for you to go to your members of Congress and your senators. I tell you, as a representative, I know it's important to me to hear what my constituents have to say, especially young people. Because let me be honest, as a representative, I know young people They are not just voters of today, but for a long time to come. You're the ones with all the energy, and I want young people to be with me. And so it's very important that you show up. You want to ask early. You want to try to make an appointment with your representatives and senators early, so that they don't have, you don't want to show up at the last minute or call a week beforehand. You want to do it as early as you possibly can. So that's one thing that's very important. Show up even if you know your representative or senator is not pro-life. You want to be able to send that message so that they understand that the pro-life support is there. So it's important that you do that. Now, you may or may not get to meet with your representative or senator, but if you get to meet with the staff, that's still a great opportunity to show strength and to bring the pro-life message to them. We may have an especially important time in January. We all know that the Senate might flip to Republican, and that will be an especially important time. We have a lot of big issues out there. We have conscious protections. We have funding for abortion in Obamacare that we are trying to get rid of. We have a lot of issues also at the state level. But this is an important time because of the issues, but also, especially if the Senate flips, it's going to be an important time to put pressure on senators to pass some of these bills that we've passed in the House. We've already passed in the House. They've not gotten a vote in the Senate. So that's very important. The other thing I want to say is it's especially important to go to your new representatives and senators. I remember when I first started out how important it was to me. I still remember a meeting I had with high school students at a local high school, and I remember the issues that they brought up to me at that time. Members, if you're getting to Washington, there's a lot of things that you're going to be impacted, especially at that time. And if you show the strength, you show your support for pro-life, it's important especially to reach out to those members who have just been elected. So I want to encourage all of you to come. I think it's especially important, not to say men aren't important, but women are especially important to show that message, fight back against that war on women. And one last thing, if you can see the movie 40, 40 the film, it great. Not only gives you a sense of the March in Washington, but also what you need to be prepared for the arguments from the other side. So with all that, great to be with you, and hope to see you all out in Washington in January. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congressman Lipinski. It's great to have you, and we know that you're very busy right now, so thank you for making the time to be with us tonight. In order to help you become better equipped, if you feel like you don't know what to say to your congressman, we want to give you those tools at the March for Life this year. And so we are starting a new training led by our wonderful Tom McCluskey, who's in charge of our government relations at the March for Life. We're offering 2 different sessions teaching people how to interact with their legislators in an effective kind of way. And those are both going to be held the day before the March for Life. One is going to be in the morning and one will be in the afternoon. They'll both be at our March for Life headquarter hotel, which is the Renaissance Marriott. It's called Capitol Hill 101, and it's free for individuals or groups, by the way. Capitol Hill 101 is part of the revived March for Life Conference and Expo. We also have a youth rally, a law conference, and a Culture of Life seminar. So if you want more information on that, you can just go to marchforlife.org for all the information. They're all going to be held on January 21st, the day before the march. We also have an exhibition hall featuring many pro-life organizations and ministries, some of those that are represented with us here tonight. The Expo Hall is a great way for you to connect with organizations that can help you march on throughout the year. The Expo Hall is also free, and it's open all day on the 21st, as well as before and after the actual March for Life on the 22nd. Now, for our next guest, I'm excited to turn it over to Jill Stanek. Let me first mention, for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to meet Jill or to hear her story, her entrance into the pro-life world was a pretty remarkable story. She was a nurse at a Christian hospital and discovered that little ones that were being aborted were born alive and weren't being taken care of, and she fought and defended for those little ones. Today, she's a well-known blogger and social media expert, and she's here to speak to us a little bit about utilizing social media tools for the March for Life, as well as approaching this as more of a human dignity pilgrimage or human dignity tour than just a trip, just a fun trip, so to speak.
Thanks, Jeannie. The rally and the March for Life on January 22nd are going to be very encouraging, inspiring, and convicting. But those few hours aren't all there are to the March for Life. As Jeannie indicated, the March for Life should be viewed not just as an afternoon event, but as a pilgrimage, as a human dignity tour. There is much that can be done to make your trip as impactful as possible to really cement a commitment to the sanctity of life, particularly if you're bringing young people. This may be your one and only opportunity to help someone make a soul-deep, lifelong commitment to actively oppose abortion. March for Life organizers have put together a trip planner, and this is a PDF that's available on their website. It provides a sample itinerary for a 3-day human dignity tour that takes advantage of the fact that the March for Life is held in Washington, D.C. The trip planner also provides hotel and restaurant and transportation info, and it even gives advice on how to dress for the weather if you're from Florida and you don't understand what cold really is. Since the March for Life is held on a Thursday this year, an extended stay is much more doable for school groups. But if you can't do 3 days, then do 2 or do 1.5, as much as is practical and affordable. There are many memorials in D.C. that are tied to human injustices and genocide, and they connect them to our social justice to stop abortion. And probably the most meaningful one is a Holocaust museum, which provides a stark and lasting reminder of what people can do to others who are considered lower forms of humanity. The Lincoln Memorial offers the same opportunity, as does the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. In fact, just about every memorial in Washington can be used to open minds and conversations to the relationship between abortion and other historical human atrocities. And as Jeannie mentioned, there's also several events for both youth and adults before, during, and even after the day of the march, and you can get information about all of those at marchforlife.org. I've included some impactful movie suggestions at my blog, jillstanek.com, if you are going to be on a long car or bus ride, because these can also be used to stimulate conversation. And I want to turn now to using social media during your March for Life trip to advance the sanctity of life. One of my favorite verses is Psalm 144:1. Praise be to the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for battle, my fingers for war. My fingers for war. This is what I do by typing on my keyboard every day. And for someone who's blogged on the pro-life issue for 9 years now, I can attest to the fact of the importance of our pro-life presence online. I can also attest to the fact that the media perpetually snubs the March for Life. This is the largest annual gathering of any group in Washington, D.C., and it is the largest pro-life annual gathering in the world, and yet the media always ignores it. So you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone by using your social media platform to promote the sanctity of life during the march. Whether you're on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Pinterest, you can and you should be posting photos and thoughts during your trip, because you know that you have many family members and friends who are not pro-life. And what better hook, to use a journalistic term, to discuss the sanctity of life than the march? You'll open new doors for understanding and conversation while promoting the breadth and the depth of the March for Life. Thanks, Jeannie.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you very much. That was wonderful. In addition to the March for Life conference and expo, there's a ton of other amazing events that are not officially sponsored by the March for Life around the time of the march. These are religious services, these are conferences, they're wonderful events. Our next 2 guests are going to share a little bit about some of those large and wonderful events. First, we're going to turn to Kristen Hawkins, who many of you know. Kristen, of course, heads up Students for Life of America, one of our favorite partnering groups. and she's also a mother of 3, maybe more coming. We'll have, maybe she'll tell us, I don't know. Just moved to Minnesota, and a great friend. So thank you, Kristen. Hand it over to you.
Thanks, Jeannie, for having me on. I'm so excited. You know, the March for Life is my favorite time of the entire year. I just get so excited because you get to see the pro-life generation in action in Washington, D.C. And, you know, our national conference, we host it every year. And it's such a great tool for especially teen and college groups to utilize, because you come to the march, you get all excited, you realize you're not alone on college campuses, right? You're not the only one who believes this way. And then you go to the National Students for Life Conference and you get trained in how to dialogue, how to have meaningful, life-changing conversations with students on your campus, and how to save lives on campus and help women who are facing unplanned crisis pregnancies. So I would like to encourage everyone to consider coming to our national conference this year. It's the day after the march, so it'll be Friday, January 23rd. It's at the First Baptist Church of Glenarden, so it's right outside D.C., and one of the largest African-American churches in the D.C. metro area. It's accessible via the metro, the subway system. We have free bus parking, so everyone is welcome. We have Abby Johnson this year coming, Jason Jones, the producer of Bella, Stephanie Gray is coming to give an apologetics presentation, and our big keynote, our Defender of Life Award winner this year, is Professor Robbie George of Princeton University, who goes head-to-head with the other side every single day. We have a great discount program for all of the new groups, especially if your diocese or your church is bringing a large group, and you can just email us at info@studentsforlife.org. But I highly encourage groups to, you know, come to the march, get excited, know that we can abolish abortion in our lifetime, and then come to our conference and figure out how you can do it. I promise it's a life-changing experience, even for the adults who come. Sometimes I think the adults who attend get more out of it sometimes than some of the students, because they're so excited to see 2,500 young people there ready to end abortion. It's just incredible, and we have story after story of young people who have come with a group, you know, a little bit interested in the pro-life issue, not doing too much. They come to the conference and then they dedicate their lives to fighting this injustice. It's just incredible.
Great. Kristen, thank you so much. It's always fun to hear about it. I have to tell you, I mean, I've been to that conference a number of times, and once, I mean, I got ambushed by a bunch of, I mean, it's like you can't even barely move around. There are so many young people, and it's really so positive and just energizing. I mean, it just gives you such hope for knowing that abortion will be ended soon when you've got such enthusiastic ambassadors for life. I mean, it's
exactly.
really...
And
yeah.
Just like the March for Life, we want it to be a unifying event. So we have, you know, every national pro-life group is there. So no matter what your niche in the movement is, you're going to find your place at the conference.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thanks, Kristen. Thanks so much. I just want to remind everyone that you can submit questions in 2 ways. You can tweet them with our hashtag March for Life. You can also submit them via just email, info@marchforlife.org. And don't forget to text the polling question, and again, that is if you're a first-timer or if you've been to the March for Life before, and the way that you do that is you text the number 99000, and then the phrase that you're putting in there is First March. Everybody does that, whether it's your first or not, and then you're going to get questions back, polling questions, so FIRSTMARCH. Okay, and now I'm very excited to introduce you to Krista Lopicola. A word of introduction about Krista, if you haven't had the chance to meet this lovely young woman. She's the executive director for the Department of Life Issues, Archdiocese of Washington. Krista studied both theology and social work. I think someone might have their auditorium there. Yeah. Krista studied both theology and social work. She's essentially spent her professional career working to build a culture of life, especially with regard to articulating Catholic church teachings as they relate to some of the most challenging issues in the culture. So, Krista, I'll turn it over to you. It sounds like we're having a little bit of an auditory issue, so we may just work on that for 1 second. Okay, Krista.
Thanks, Jeannie, and good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this. Just wanted to share about the event that the Archdiocese of Washington hosts during the March for Life activities. We host the annual Youth Rally and Mass for Life, and this event has grown so much over the years that we host it at 2 venues. It's 2 separate events. One on the morning in the Verizon Center, downtown D.C., and the other as well at the D.C. Armory at the same time. So with those 2 venues, we host approximately 28,000 teenagers from all over the United States coming in for the March for Life. The event originally began back in 1990 at a smaller venue, and it was originally, the idea was to get the Catholics in the Archdiocese of Washington to participate in the march and encourage them to really take part, to take a stand, and also to witness to their faith at the same time. And as it grew over the years, then eventually, in response to the incredible outpouring of enthusiasm and energy at the World Youth Day events when our Pope John Paul II came to Denver, this then transitioned into a youth event at that time. And so in 1995, this year being our 25th anniversary of it being the Youth Rally and Mass for Life, it transitioned into this large event with youth and then moved into the Verizon Center and expanded into a national event. And really the idea was not only to encourage the participation, but to provide an opportunity for all of the young people to see the breadth and the experience, the wide magnitude of this witness of young, youthful, pro-life presence and the breadth of the Catholic presence as well. So it really gives this huge experience of universal solidarity in this movement. And then additionally, it just brings this huge event of the March for Life into the context of their faith. So it's giving them the teachings of the Church and the message of the Church in the context of this national march. So not only do we pray for an end to abortion and we appreciate the sanctity of life because it's given to us by God, but then we also witness to that in the public arena by going to the march. And then just gives that greater appreciation that this is all-encompassing. Our faith takes us into the public square. So again, it's grown into this massive event of 28,000 young people in the D.C. Armory and the Verizon Center. So we just encourage people, if you've never seen it, to try and get tickets next year. We're sold out this year. And come join us because it's an amazing event.
Thank you, Krista. I mean, it is truly an unbelievable event to the extent that sometimes people confuse the actual March for Life with the Verizon Center Mass because so many people go to it and they think that we're sort of synonymous. It's just amazing and beautiful and wonderful event. I've had the opportunity of watching kids just stream into the Verizon Center. My old office sort of oversaw that, and early in the morning I would just watch the thousands of young people going in there. It's just really remarkable. So thank you. Thanks for all your work that you're doing with that. It's very, very, very inspiring.
You're welcome.
Our final 2 guests are both students who are very involved in pro-life work in their campuses, and they're planning large trips from their schools. Sean McGuire is a second-year law student at Liberty University School of Law and president of their Students for Life chapter. We featured Sean in one of our Marching On blog posts earlier this year, so you may recognize his story a little bit. So Sean, I turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Jeannie, for having me. I really appreciate being on this hangout. Thank you all for watching, and you've heard a lot of great things about the March for Life already. My only thing to add is just do it. If you're able to, come to the March for Life. If you're not able to come in person, watch it, follow it on social media, tweet about it, get on Facebook about it. Just spread the message that every life truly is a gift. I have a few things to say. If you have a small group or a medium-sized group or a large group, any size group, you can get to the March for Life in Washington, D.C. Takes a bit of planning, but you can get it done. The main thing to get started with is to get transportation established for you to go. If you have a large group, you'll probably want to get a bus, and bus reservations need to be put in as soon as possible. Putting them in advance secures your position. Make sure you have a bus chartered. Now, if you have a lot of people and you can only get one bus, and there's more people than you can fit on that bus, try and coordinate with another local group that's going. I found that a lot of times I wouldn't have enough seats for all the students who wanted to go, so I would contact local parishes or local Christian groups that were going, and we were able to coordinate so that we could share some of our seats with them, and they would send people that they needed places to go to our bus if we had extra seats. So that's pretty much the main thing I have to share. There's a lot of resources available, and to learn more about how to coordinate your trip, go on to the March for Life website, marchforlife.org, and download that trip planner that Jeannie mentioned at the very beginning. That trip planner will give you a lot of details about how to plan and coordinate all of the logistics that goes into this. Like I said at the beginning, just do it. It's so worth it.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. We are now. We're having a little bit of feedback here. Okay, we're going to turn now to Noreen Fisher. Noreen is a junior at Notre Dame University. She's majoring in finance with theology and entrepreneurship minors. Very nice. She is the March for Life commissioner with Notre Dame Right to Life. Go ahead, Noreen.
I just want to thank you so much for having me, and thank you to everyone who's watching. To give you a little background on Notre Dame's history with the March for Life, we're blessed with the opportunity to lead the March for Life in 2013, and we've had great participation. Looking at the last 2 years alone, we've had an average about 600 Notre Dame students going on the March for Life, which is great. And when we really look at beginning planning in the summer, we look to do whatever we can to ultimately maximize participation for that year. And we kind of look at this as a two-pronged approach. First is we want to keep it as low cost as possible for the students, and the second thing we want to do is we want to maximize our advertising campaign. So when looking at keeping it low cost, we are college students, or that's kind of the audience that we're tailoring to, so we want to keep it as cheap for them as possible. So we set the price at $35. That includes their bus ticket there and back, as well as lodging. But in order to keep it this low cost, we need to do a lot of fundraising. And one of the ways we fundraise is through donations. We've reached out to the vast alumni network that Notre Dame has, as well as utilizing the different university groups that are on campus. For example, the Center for Ethics and Culture, they agreed to donate half of whatever the busing cost will be, which is great, and we're so thankful to them for that. Another idea that we do is we utilize concession stands. And Notre Dame is very well known for their football program, and campus comes to life on home game day weekends. So we utilize that, and we have a concession stand out, and people are always willing to donate to a cause that they're very passionate about. And finally, we utilize apparel sales, and we sell anything from t-shirts and hoodies to scarves and earmuffs. And this is not only a great way to get the pro-life message out there because it has our Right to Life emblem on it, but it's a different arena to get some funding that we can earmark to put towards the March for Life to keep it low cost for our students. The second approach that we do is we want to have as big of an advertising campaign as we can. We want everyone to know about the March for Life and have the opportunity to learn about it so that their voice can also be heard in March for Life at least with everyone else. So the first thing we do is a social media campaign. As Jill and Sean mentioned before, never underestimate the value of social media. We make a Facebook event, we have an Instagram account, we have a Twitter account. And that's really the point of social media. It's kind of like a spider web. Once one person knows about it, they can share it with their friends and invite them. So you get the word out there and you get the message out there about the March for Life. Another thing that's great about being on a college university is there's so many groups and clubs. So what we do is we get in contact and get the email listservs for a lot of these clubs in order for them to send an email out on our behalf, personally inviting people on the March for Life. Finally, we have a very active visual advertising campaign. There's banners all around campus and posters on basically every corkboard that you will look at. We have table tents positioned on every table in each of the dining halls and a strong digital media campaign on the TV screens around campus. So we want it to be that no one will have an excuse to know that the March for Life is going on. So everyone has an equal opportunity to learn about it and ultimately sign up by the design. The final thing I'm going to say is, and also can be an idea for those of you planning marches or trips for the March for Life, is we give various trip options. So for this year, for example, everyone is departing from South Bend to DC on Wednesday, January 21st, but we're offering 2 return trips. One return trip for right after the march is over for those people who can only afford to miss 1 day of work or 1 day of classes. And then we have a second return trip, which is actually on Saturday night. Both cost the same, but we give that flexibility for those who are not able to maybe miss 2 days of school or 2 days of work. So thank you again for having me, and I'm willing to answer any questions or give advice that can help. Thank you.
Great, Maureen. If I could ask all of the speakers to go ahead and mute, if I can ask them to mute when they're not speaking, we might direct some questions at you now, but just to help with some of the auditory, that would be great. And yes, I'm going to, if you all have questions for each other, feel free to think about those now, and I'm going to give you an opportunity in just a minute to ask those. But first, for all of our viewers, I have a few questions for you. The 2 things favors to ask about. The first has to do with, you know, the March for Life. When we go through the process of setting up, we have to work with the National Park Service. We actually have something that's called an emergency plan in case of different things that can ever happen. And sometimes, as you know, weather is a condition for us as well. This past year, it was as cold as 7 degrees at different points. It was very cold. We had to cancel our 5K, although we'll have it this coming year. One of the things that we're looking for are volunteer buses. We want 4 warming buses very close to the rally site, and you'd be given special permits to actually park there. So for anybody who's interested in that, if you can email us at info@marchforlife.org, that would be great. The second thing that I wanted to ask you about is that we have a need for a tremendous amount of volunteers around the time of the March for Life. As you can imagine, an event with hundreds of thousands of people. So if you're interested in volunteering, there's lots of different capacities, and we even have kind of a questionnaire to fill out. You can also email info@marchforlife.org. Thanks very much. Now I'd like to turn back to our guest speakers and see if you all, before we go to the audience, I know we have had a number of questions coming in throughout the webinar, but if you all have any questions for each other. Everybody's muted right now, so you'll have to unmute to ask a question.
My question's for Noreen. How can we get more Notre Dame students at the Students for Life conference?
I was actually going to ask you how you have to sign up for that.
We actually had a person last year come in undercover. They were not pro-life, and they actually said they were from Notre Dame. I caught them, but that was the only person who said they were from Notre Dame. So we need some more Notre Dame students.
Yeah, no, even just listening to you talk, it sounds like something I was going to ask you for more information on. Yeah. To definitely promote it to the kids here, because it sounds like a great opportunity, and especially if our second trip, we're leaving on Saturday, so a majority of our kids will still be there on Friday.
Perfect. And we have a special group discount, so for what you would pay for lunch and dinner in D.C., you're going to pay for that and have a whole day conference. So I'll connect with you after this.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
Nice. Any other questions from our guests?
Well, I wanted to say, on top of Kristen, I definitely recommend the Students for Life of America conference, life-changing. And for you, Jeannie, I just wanted to be the first person to say I volunteer to help out at the march. Whatever you need me to do, let me know.
Good, Sean. Thank you. Great. I think now we're going to take some questions, right, that we've received along the way. Are Metro passes available early? That's a question that we've received. I'm going to hold these up for people. Okay. So one question that we've received are Metro passes available early? Of course, utilizing the Metro is an important part of that day. Yes, they are available early. You can order them early, and you can find info about that on our website. All you need to do is go to the trip planner. The other option is that you can go to the Washington, D.C. Metro website, which is WMATA, WMATA.org, O-R-G. So marchforlife.org or WMATA.org, and you'll get more information on that. But you absolutely can get Metro cards early. The next question is, can you tell us more about the Expo? So the Expo is short for Exhibition Hall. We have thousands of people come through the Expo in the period of basically a day and a half, and we've got lots and lots of booths. I think it's something like 45 different pro-life organizations have booths. You can hand out different things and educate people about your organization. You can find out about all sorts of different things. Some groups even sell things like T-shirts and what have you. So it's kind of this amazing opportunity because so many different events are happening there. With the conference, you've got well over a couple thousand people kind of coming through there, and then it's the headquarters. The Marriott Renaissance is our headquarters, so most of the people coming to the March for Life that are staying in a hotel are staying there. So there's all sorts of traffic going through there. The Rose Dinner, the night of the March for Life, is in that hotel as well. So all of these different people are walking through, and they get to learn about all the neat different organizations. So, and I might add that we're a really good deal too. But you can go to our website to find out more about that. Next, what should I do after the march? That's a good question. We really encourage people to march on throughout the year. Literally the day after, you can go to Students for Life of America conference if you'd like. That would be a very good thing. But we encourage you to get involved in your local community day in and day out, and there's so many different ways. I think everybody has to discern that on their own. It might be praying in front of a clinic with 40 Days for Life. It might be volunteering at a pregnancy center. It might be writing in to letters to the editor for your local paper, joining a school board, something like that. But without a doubt, unless we all join together as a unified group, we won't bring abortion to a speedy end. Our goal at the March for Life is to work ourselves out of a job, and the only way that will ever happen is if everyone who's coming to the march is doing their part year-round. So I think we have to look in our hearts to find the answer to that, but what I will say is that every single one of us has a role to building a culture of life together. Next question for Jill or anyone else. That's what it says. For Jill or anyone else, can you give me some social media tips? Let's go to Jill.
First of all, keep it pithy. And secondly, bear in mind that you don't want to get into arguments. Sometimes you're going to meet hostility, especially on Twitter. And when you do, don't get personal. Just pick and choose if possible points that they're making that you can refute and then move on. You know, the Bible says don't cast your pearls before swine, and so there's a certain point that you do have to move on. But also don't be afraid to engage in conversation, like on Facebook. And as far as the March for Life goes, pictures say 1,000 words. So that if you can take some good pictures of the march, sayings that you find at the memorials that can tie into the pro-life effort and help people connect the dots, then that would be very helpful too.
Great. Okay.
People need to remember too to use the hashtag. So when you're on, at the March for Life, like in this huge crowd, use the March for Life's hashtag. Use pro-life gen. Use pro-life. Use these hashtags because we can get the March for Life trending on Facebook and Twitter if everyone is tweeting and Facebooking about at the same time.
Kristen raises a really good point here. Last year, the March for Life did trend on Twitter the day of the march, and it was remarkable. And we did that through the two hashtags. One is just hashtag March for Life, and the other is hashtag Why We March. And we plan on using Why We March again this year, just as a unified movement. That will be our main hashtag the day of the march. And you'll also see more social media strategy coming out of the March for Life in the months ahead. We don't want to overwhelm everyone by giving that all now. We're just announcing all of these different things going on, but especially right at the beginning of January, you're going to see us coming out of the gate full force with all sorts of fun social media things to do throughout the month. Next question, last question. Do you have hotel information? So I do have hotel information. You can go to our website, again, marchforlife.org, to get that. We're going to a new hotel this year. This is the first time in many, many years, but it was the right thing for a lot of reasons. It was a little bit of a better deal. It's a little bit bigger, newer, very close to the March rally. It's the Renaissance, which is on 9th Street, and I think we're at 85% sold out already. So if you're interested in reserving a room at the March for Life Hotel this year, I would immediately, in the next day or so, call the Marriott Renaissance in DC and get your special room rate for the March for Life. We also have a backup room block at the previous hotel, which is the Hyatt on Capitol Hill. So you're welcome to stay at either of those hotels. The Hyatt, I think, is like 95% sold out too. So we're selling out pretty early on in terms of our room blocks at these different places. As you can see, people are pretty excited and they're planning early. Okay, no more questions, right? Okay. Well, I want to just say again, thank you to all of you who've been viewing this. Please pass this on. It'll be, you can just watch it on YouTube afterwards. Hopefully, we've provided some good information. A very, very heartfelt and hearty thank you to all of our guests who've spoken here tonight. We're really just very excited to have you. We want to ask you all to stay in touch, especially via social media, and we're looking forward to seeing you in January. And even more, we're looking forward to one day soon not having to